Admiral Jin-Ho Park stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the stars through the massive viewing window. Behind him, his crew worked at their stations with quiet focus. The air felt heavy with worry. Everyone knew what was coming. "Sir, we're getting another message from the Coalition Emergency Council," said Captain Soo-Jin Lee, his second in command. Her voice was steady, but Jin-Ho could see the fear in her eyes. Jin-Ho nodded and activated the communication screen. The faces of 12 different alien species appeared before him. These were the leaders of the Galactic Coalition, the group that humanity had joined 20 years ago. They had promised to protect each other, to stand together against any threat. Today, Jin-Ho would learn how little those promises meant. The ethereal representative spoke first. Its crystal body glowed with cold blue light as it delivered the message. "The Coalition Council has reached a decision regarding the Void Swarm threat." To the Sol system, Jin-Ho felt his stomach drop. The Void Swarm was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. They were creatures of pure hunger, eating entire planets and turning everything into more of themselves. 3 star systems had already fallen to them. Now they were coming for Earth. "We have calculated the resources required to defend your system," continued the ethereal. "The cost would be too high. Humanity contributes too little to the Coalition to justify such an expense." Behind Jin-Ho, he heard someone gasp. Lieutenant Commander Tae-Ho Kim, the youngest officer on the bridge, stepped forward. "Sir, are they saying what I think they're saying?" The Mechanical Nexus representative spoke next, its voice flat and emotionless. "The Coalition fleet will withdraw from the Sol system immediately. We advise human forces to evacuate what population they can and abandon Earth." Jin-Ho felt anger rising in his chest, but he kept his voice calm. "We've fought beside you for 20 years. We've bled and died for Coalition worlds. We've shared our technology, our resources, our people. And now you're just leaving us?" The Aquatic Depths representative bubbled something that the translator turned into words. "Emotional responses are not logical. The Void Swarm requires 73.2% of our combined fleet to defeat. Earth's population represents only 0.3% of Coalition citizens. The mathematics are clear." "Mathematics," Jin-Ho repeated slowly. He looked around his bridge at the faces of his crew. These were good people, brave people who had served the Coalition faithfully. Now they were being thrown away like broken tools. Soo-Jin leaned close to his ear. "Sir, long-range sensors show Coalition ships already jumping out of the system. They're not waiting for a response." Jin-Ho closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, his expression was hard as steel. "Representatives of the Galactic Coalition," he said, his voice carrying across the communication channel. "Let me make sure I understand. You're abandoning us to die because it's not profitable to save us." "Profitability is not the correct term," said the ethereal. "Resource allocation efficiency is more accurate." "Right," Jin-Ho said. "Dr. Hai-Wan Kim, please join us on the bridge." A few minutes later, Dr. Kim arrived. She had been humanity's main contact with the Coalition, working to build relationships and share knowledge. She had believed in the Coalition's promise of unity and mutual protection. Now she looked like someone who had just watched their world burn. "Doctor," Jin-Ho said, "please send a message to all Coalition vessels. Make sure it goes out on all frequencies." Dr. Kim activated her console. "What should I say, Admiral?" Jin-Ho stared at the alien faces on his screen. "Tell them this. Today, the Galactic Coalition showed its true face. When humanity needed you most, you chose to save money instead of lives. You chose efficiency over honor. We will remember this day. Every human who dies because of your decision will be remembered, and if somehow we survive this, we will make sure the galaxy knows exactly what kind of allies you really are." The alien representatives watched without emotion as Dr. Kim broadcast the message. When she finished, the ethereal spoke again. "Emotional outbursts will not change our decision. The Coalition wishes humanity good fortune in your evacuation efforts." The communication ended. The bridge fell silent except for the humming of the ship's systems. "Sir," said Soo-Jin quietly, "what are our orders?" Jin-Ho looked out at the stars again. In the distance, he could see the last coalition ships jumping to hyperspace. Soon, Earth would be alone against an enemy that had destroyed 3 entire star systems. "Get me a channel to all human ships," he said, "and patch in Earth command." When the channel was open, Jin-Ho spoke to every human vessel in the system. "This is Admiral Park. As you've all heard by now, the Coalition has abandoned us. They've decided we're not worth saving. Well, I have news for them and for the Void Swarm. Humanity doesn't surrender. We don't run. And we sure as hell don't. Go quietly." He paused, looking at the tactical display that showed the approaching swarm fleet. It was massive, easily 10 times larger than everything humanity could put together. "Dr. Yunsu Lee in weapons research tells me we have one option left. It's experimental, dangerous, and probably crazy, but it might just work." Jin-Ho's voice grew stronger. "We're going to use the quantum disruption device. Yes, it might tear apart local space-time. Yes, it might kill us all. But it will take the swarm with us." Across the fleet, human captains responded with quiet determination. They had all known this day might come. They had all prepared for the possibility that they might have to make the ultimate sacrifice. "Begin evacuation of all non-essential personnel to the planet," Jin-Ho ordered. "We'll hold the line up here as long as possible. And remember, whatever happens today, we go down fighting. We show the galaxy what humanity is really made of." As the Void Swarm's dark ships filled the edge of the system, Jin-Ho made peace with his decision. The Coalition had left them to burn. Fine, but humanity would take their enemies with them into the fire. The battle for Earth was about to begin. Taemin Choi had never seen the sun. He was born in the underground tunnels of New Seoul, 15 years after Earth disappeared into the void. The only light he knew came from the bioluminescent strips they had torn from dead swarm drones and rewired to serve humanity. He moved through the tunnel like a shadow, his enhanced reflexes keeping him silent. Behind him, 3 other Voidborn followed his lead. They had learned to hunt the creatures that had tried to destroy their world. Now the hunters were becoming the hunted. "Contact ahead," whispered Sujin Park, pressing her hand against the tunnel wall. The Voidborn had developed an almost supernatural sense for swarm movement. They could feel the vibrations through stone and metal, could sense the electrical patterns of swarm biosystems. Taemin held up his hand, stopping the group. He closed his eyes and listened. There, about 50 meters ahead, a swarm scout was moving through the old subway system. It was alone, separated from its pack. "Perfect. Remember," he said quietly, "we need it alive. Yoonji needs fresh specimens for her work." The others nodded. They had done this dozens of times before. Capture a swarm drone, drag it back to the labs, and let the engineers figure out how to turn its own biology against it. They moved forward with practiced efficiency. Taiman's team had been together since childhood, trained from birth to fight in this strange world between dimensions. They knew each other's movements, could communicate with just a look. The swarm scout was feeding on the remains of an old electrical system. It looked like a cross between a spider and a lamprey, all black carapace and grinding teeth. Its bioelectric field pulsed with a sickly green light. Taemin struck first, launching himself from the shadows with a weapon that had once been a swarm stinger, now modified with human technology. The scout turned, but it was too late. The modified stinger penetrated its armor and released a paralysis toxin that Yoonji had developed from captured swarm chemicals. The creature collapsed, its limbs twitching as the toxin spread through its system. Within seconds, it was unconscious but alive. "Good work," said Mira-han, the team's medic. "This one looks healthy. Yoonji should be able to get some good data from it." They carried their prize through the winding tunnels that connected the underground cities. Earth in the void was a world of tunnels and hidden spaces. The surface was too dangerous, filled with the larger swarm creatures that had adapted to the strange physics of their pocket dimension. 15 years ago, Admiral Jin-Ho Park's sacrifice had saved Earth from complete destruction. The quantum weapon had pulled both the planet and the attacking swarm fleet into a space between spaces, where time moved differently and the laws of physics bent in strange ways. At first, the survivors thought they were doomed, trapped in a dying world with creatures that wanted to eat them. But humans had always been good at adapting. They learned to use swarm technology to turn the aliens' own weapons against them. Most importantly, they learned to survive. Tayman's team reached the central hub of New Seoul, one of 7 underground cities that housed Earth's remaining population. The city was a maze of repurposed buildings, swarm biotech, and human engineering. It wasn't pretty, but it worked. They found Yoonji Nam in her laboratory, surrounded by screens showing biological data. She was studying a swarm communication node, trying to understand how the creatures coordinated their attacks. "Another specimen," Tayman announced, setting down the paralyzed scout. Yoonji looked up, her eyes bright with excitement. "Perfect timing. I just had a breakthrough with the neural interface project." She gestured to a device that looked like a combination of human electronics and swarm biology. "I think I've figured out how to make our brains compatible with their technology." "What does that mean?" asked Soo-jin. "It means," said a new voice, "that we might finally be ready to go home." They turned to see young Soo-han entering the lab. He was older than the Voidborn, one of the survivors who remembered life before the Void. He worked in communications, trying to maintain contact with the outside universe. "You've been monitoring the Coalition frequencies again," Yoonji said. It wasn't a question. Young Soo nodded grimly. "The news isn't good. The Coalition has been systematically destroying any evidence that humanity ever existed. Our colonies, our research stations, even historical records. They want to pretend we never happened." Tayman felt anger building in his chest. He had grown up hearing stories about the Coalition's betrayal, but this was worse than abandonment. This was erasure. "But," Young Soo continued, "there's also opportunity. The Coalition is falling apart. The Nexus machines are having trouble with new swarm variants. The Depth's homeworld was attacked last month, and there are rumors that some species are questioning what happened to humanity." Yoonji stood up from her workstation. "How long until we can break out of this dimension?" "That depends on your neural interface project," Young Soo said. "The portal technology we've developed can get us out, but we need perfect coordination with swarm biosystems to make it work. We need to think like them, move like them." Tayman looked around the lab at the mixture of human and alien technology. His generation had grown up with this stuff, had learned to use it as naturally as breathing. They were no longer purely human, just as Earth was no longer purely in normal space. "How many people know about this?" he asked. "Just the council leaders and a few key researchers," Young Soo replied. "We can't risk panic. People have built lives here, families. Some might not want to leave." "But we can't stay forever," said Soo-jin. "This dimension is unstable, and we still have a debt to collect." Yoonji smiled, but it wasn't a pleasant expression. "Oh, we're definitely going to collect. The Coalition thinks humanity is dead. They're going to get a very unpleasant surprise." She activated a holographic display that showed Earth's current state. The planet existed in multiple phases of reality simultaneously, protected by the quantum field that had saved it. Around it, the remains of the swarm fleet drifted like a graveyard of alien technology. "We've been studying swarm tech for 15 years, Yoonji said. "We've learned to use it better than they ever did, and we've had time to examine every piece of Coalition equipment they left behind when they ran away." She brought up another display showing ship designs that combined human engineering with alien technology. "We're not the same species that got abandoned 15 years ago. We're something new, something better." Tayman stared at the ship designs. They were beautiful and terrible, clearly human in origin, but enhanced beyond anything the old Earth could have imagined. "When?" he asked simply. Young Soo checked his communication device. "The portal generators will be ready in 6 months. The first ships are already being built. Admiral Park wants to start with small raids, test our capabilities against swarm forces in normal space. And after that," Yoonji's smile grew wider, "after that we remind the galaxy that humanity keeps its promises. They left us to burn. Now it's payback time." The lab fell silent except for the humming of alien machinery and the distant sounds of the underground city. Somewhere above them, in the twisted reality of the surface, swarm creatures that had once been humanity's destroyers now served as raw materials for their revenge. The Coalition had made a terrible mistake 15 years ago. They had thought abandoning humanity would solve their problem. Instead, they had given humanity time to become something the galaxy had never seen before. Soon, very soon, they would understand the price of betrayal. Dr. Kang-Min Seo had been breaking Coalition rules for 3 months now, and today he might finally get caught. He sat in the pilot seat of his modified research ship, watching the empty space where Earth used to be. Beside him, Mi Young-yu checked the sensor readings for the 100th time. Still nothing on standard sensors, she said, but the quantum disturbances are getting stronger. Kang-Min nodded. He had spent years studying human neural patterns before the abandonment, and something about the quantum signatures from this dead system reminded him of human brain activity. It was crazy, impossible, but he couldn't shake the feeling. The Coalition banned all research into the Sol system for good reason, Mi-young said quietly. If they find out we're here, they'll execute us both, Kang-Min finished. I know, but I have to understand what happened here. Mi-young was the only other person in the galaxy who might understand his obsession. She was half human, half ethereal, a child born from one of the few interspecies relationships in Coalition history. When humanity was declared extinct, she had lost half of her identity. There, Kang-Min said suddenly, pointing at the sensor display. Do you see that energy spike? The space in front of them shimmered like heat waves rising from hot pavement. For just a moment, something appeared in the emptiness. It looked like a piece of a planet, covered in structures that seemed to shift between dimensions. That's impossible, Mi-young whispered. Matter can't exist in quantum flux like that. Before Kang-Min could respond, his proximity alarms started screaming. Ships were appearing out of nowhere, materializing from the quantum disturbance like ghosts becoming solid. But these weren't ghost ships, they were sleek, deadly, and moving with purpose. Those designs, Mi-young said, her voice filled with disbelief. They're human, but changed. The ships were clearly built by human hands, but they incorporated technology that Kang-Min had never seen before. Biomechanical components that pulsed with alien energy, weapon systems that seemed to bend space around them, and they moved with a coordination that reminded him of swarm tactics, but far more sophisticated. We need to leave, Mi-young said. Now. But it was too late. A massive vessel emerged from the quantum rift, larger than any ship Kang-Min had ever seen. Its hull showed clear signs of human construction, but it had been enhanced with technology from a dozen different species. On its side, in letters that glowed with quantum energy, was a name, Retribution. They're scanning us, Mi-young reported, her fingers flying over the control panel. Kang-Min, they're using Coalition scanning protocols, but enhanced somehow. They know exactly what we are. The communication system activated without Kang-Min touching any controls. A face appeared, on the screen human but changed. The man's eyes held depths that seemed to reflect the strange space they floated in, and his skin had a faint luminescent quality. This is Captain Dong-hyun Lim of the Terran Fleet, the man said. His voice was calm but carried an undertone that made Kang-Min's skin crawl. You are in restricted space, state your purpose. Kang-Min swallowed hard. I'm Dr. Kang-Min Seo, Coalition xenobiologist. This is Mi Young-yu. We're conducting research into quantum anomalies. Captain Lim's expression didn't change. Dr. Seo, I remember your work on human neural compatibility with alien technology. Interesting research. Too bad the Coalition never let you finish it. You know my work? We know many things, Doctor. We've had 15 years to study everything the Coalition left behind when they ran away. Lim's eyes seemed to look right through the communication screen. The question is, what do you plan to do with what you've seen here? Mi-young leaned forward. Captain, I'm half human. My mother was from Earth. I thought all humans were dead. For the first time, Lim's expression softened slightly. Not dead. Changed. We've become something the Coalition never expected. He paused, seeming to consider something. You want to know what happened here? What really happened when your precious coalition abandoned us? Without waiting for an answer, Lim transmitted a data package to their ship. The images that appeared on their screen made Kang Min's blood run cold. Earth, pulled into a pocket dimension, fighting a war against swarm creatures that had been trapped with them. Humans adapting, evolving, learning to use alien technology in ways its creators never imagined. We didn't just survive, Lim said. We thrived. Every piece of coalition technology you left behind, we studied it. Every swarm creature that tried to eat us, we dissected it. We learned. We grew. We became better. The images showed human cities built inside swarm biostructures. Human soldiers using weapons that combined ethereal energy crystals with nexus, circuitry and swarm biological components. Children born in the void who could interface directly with alien technology. This is incredible, Kang Min breathed. You've achieved neural compatibility beyond anything I theorized. Your theories were a good starting point, Lim admitted. But we had motivation you never did. We had to adapt or die. The coalition made sure of that. Mi-young was staring at the images with tears in her eyes. All this time I thought I was alone. The only human heritage left in the galaxy. You were never alone, Lim said gently. But you were abandoned, just like we were. The difference is, we had each other. Kang Min forced himself to focus on the bigger picture. Captain, what are your intentions? Are you planning to return to normal space? Lim's gentle expression vanished, replaced by something cold and hard. Oh, we're already returning, Doctor. We've been conducting operations in normal space for months now. Small raids mostly, testing our capabilities against current swarm forces. Operations? Kang Min felt a chill run down his spine. The coalition thinks the swarm is getting stronger, more adaptable. They're right, but not for the reasons they think. We've been studying them, learning from them, improving them. Every swarm force that attacks a coalition world has been touched by our research. The implications hit Kang Min like a physical blow. You're making the swarm stronger? But that means coalition worlds are in more danger. The same coalition worlds that voted to let humanity burn? Lim's voice was still calm, but now it carried the promise of storms. Yes, they're in more danger. Much more. Mi-young grabbed Kang Min's arm. We have to warn them. Whatever they did to humanity, innocent people will die. Lim seemed to hear her through the communication link. Innocent people died 15 years ago too, Miss Yu. Innocent humans. But I'll make you a deal. You can warn the coalition if you want. Tell them humanity survived. Tell them we're coming home. Tell them we remember every single species that voted to abandon us. He leaned closer to the camera. But also tell them this. We're not the same humans they abandoned. We're something new. Something they created when they chose efficiency over honor. And we're going to show them exactly what that choice cost. The communication ended abruptly. Around them, the human fleet began to fade back into the quantum rift. But not before Kang Min got a clear scan of their technology. The readings made. His hands shake. These ships weren't just enhanced with alien technology. They had been designed from the ground up to exceed every limitation the coalition had ever encountered. What do we do? Mi-young asked quietly. Kang Min stared at the empty space where the human fleet had been. We go back. We report what we've seen. And we pray that 15 years of guilt is enough to make the coalition listen to reason. But deep down, he suspected it was already too late. Humanity had learned the lesson the coalition had taught them. When survival is at stake, mercy is a luxury no one can afford. The galaxy was about to relearn that lesson the hard way. The first sign that something had changed came when 3 swarm fleets simply vanished. Admiral Sora Bayek watched from the bridge of the Vindication as the quantum scanners showed empty space where massive bioships had been moments before. No debris, no energy signatures, just nothing. Confirm the readings, she told her sensor officer. Confirmed, Admiral. All swarm signatures have disappeared from sectors 7, 12, and 15, simultaneously. Sora smiled grimly. The operation had worked perfectly. Her task force had emerged from quantum space, engaged the swarm forces, and dragged them back into the void before any coalition observers could get detailed scans. It was important that humanity's return remain mysterious for now. "Signal the fleet," she ordered. "Begin harvesting operations." Around her, the human ships went to work with practiced efficiency. Every piece of swarm biotechnology was valuable now. The creatures that had once tried to destroy Earth were now raw materials for humanity's war machine. Commander Jae-won Kim approached her station. "Admiral, we've received confirmation from Intelligence Division. The Coalition High Command is calling emergency sessions. They're starting to panic." "Good," Sora said. "Fear makes people careless. Careless people make mistakes." Jae-won had spent years infiltrating coalition networks through the technology they had abandoned during humanity's evacuation. Human neural interfaces, it turned out, left permanent access points in any system they had ever touched. The coalition had never thought to remove them. "What's our next target?" Sora asked. "The Depths homeworld," Jae-won replied. "Long range. Sensors show a massive swarm incursion forming. They'll hit the planet in 6 hours. Sora nodded. The Depths had been among the loudest voices calling for humanity's abandonment. Their aquatic cities had seemed so safe, protected by their ocean worlds. They had voted to let Earth burn without a second thought. "Signal Admiral Park," she said. "Tell him the Depths are about to learn the price of betrayal." 6 hours later, the swarm attack on the Depths homeworld began exactly as predicted. Massive bioships emerged from hyperspace and began their assault on the underwater cities. The Depths defense fleet fought bravely but was clearly outmatched. The swarm had evolved since their encounter with Earth. They were faster, more adaptive, more vicious. Of course, the coalition didn't know that humanity had been improving them for 15 years. Just as the first Depth city began to fall, space around the planet tore open. Human ships poured through quantum rifts that appeared directly in the planet's atmosphere. They moved with impossible precision, their weapons carving through swarm bioarmor like paper. Fleet engineer Jun Seo-oh had outdone himself with the new weapon systems. They combined ethereal energy focusing, nexus targeting computers, Depth's bioadaptability, and swarm regenerative capabilities. The result was technology that exceeded anything any single species could have imagined. The rescue was flawless. Every swarm creature was eliminated with surgical precision. Every Depth citizen was saved. But when the grateful Depths leaders tried to thank their saviors, they received an unexpected message. "This is Admiral Jin-ho Park of the Terran Protection Fleet," came the transmission. 15 years ago, your government voted to abandon humanity to the swarm. Today, we chose to save you anyway. This is the difference between us." The Depth's Prime Minister, a large aquatic creature with multiple speaking tendrils, responded with confusion. "But humans are extinct. The coalition records show what we allowed them to show." Jinho's voice replied. "We survived. We adapted. We became something your people never expected." On the screens, throughout the Depth cities, technical readouts appeared showing the capabilities of the human rescue fleet. Every ship incorporated technology from all 12 coalition species, but enhanced beyond their original specifications. "This is impossible," the Prime Minister whispered. "No species can interface with technology from so many different evolutionary paths." "No coalition species," Jinho corrected. "But humans were always good at adapting. You forced us to get better at it." Admiral So-ra watched the conversation from her command ship. Beside her, Tactical Officer Ye-jin Ko was already calculating their next move. Ye-jin had been born in the void, part of the first generation of humans who had never known a universe where aliens were allies instead of threats. "Depth's leadership is requesting a formal meeting," Ye-jin reported. "They want to discuss terms for renewed alliance." "Terms," So-ra repeated. "How generous of them." The response from Admiral Park came through the communication system. "Prime Minister, humanity is willing to discuss terms, but understand, we are no longer the junior partner in this relationship. You will provide full access to your bioadaptation technology. You will formally acknowledge your role in the abandonment of humanity. and you will assist in the correction of coalition historical records. And in return, the Prime Minister asked. In return, we will protect your people from threats they cannot handle alone, just as you should have done for us 15 years ago. The formal ceremony took place on the Depth's homeworld 3 days later. Representatives from both species signed agreements that established the first partnership between humanity and a former coalition member. But it was clear to everyone involved that this was not the same kind of equal partnership the coalition had once claimed to offer. Admiral Sora attended the ceremony in person, her modified physiology allowing her to breathe underwater as easily as air. The biomodifications were just one of the many improvements humanity had made to itself during the Void Years. The Nexus Collective is requesting similar negotiations, J1 reported as they prepared to leave the ocean world. Their core worlds are reporting swarm infiltrations that their mechanical defenses can't counter. Sora wasn't surprised. The Nexus machines had always been proud of their logical efficiency. They had calculated that abandoning humanity was the optimal choice. Now they were learning that their calculations had been based on incomplete data. And the ethereals? No word yet, but intelligence suggests their crystal cities are experiencing power fluctuations. Something is draining their energy systems. Sora smiled. The ethereals had been the first to vote for humanity's abandonment, citing cold mathematical certainty. It would be fitting if they were the last to accept the new reality. Admiral, Yejin said quietly, do you think we're doing the right thing? These people weren't all responsible for what happened to us. Sora looked at the young officer. Yejin had been born in hell and raised in war, but she still had the capacity for mercy. It was one of the things that made her generation remarkable. The people who made the decision to abandon us are mostly still in power, Sora said. But, you're right. Not everyone was responsible. That's why we're offering protection instead of destruction. It's more mercy than they showed us. As the human fleet prepared to return to quantum space, Sora received a priority message from Earth. The planet was ready for the next phase of operations. The coalition would soon learn that humanity's return was not a request for readmission to their club. It was a notice of new management. The galaxy had a new protector now, forged in abandonment and tempered by betrayal. Whether the old powers liked it or not, the age of the coalition was ending. The age of humanity was about to begin. The ethereal collective had always prided itself on perfect logic and mathematical certainty. Their crystal cities had stood for 10,000 years, powered by energy drawn directly from their star. Nothing had ever threatened their homeworld. Nothing could absorb energy faster than they could generate it, until today. High crystalline Taesung Lim watched in growing horror as the readings came in. The swarm superorganism attacking their world was unlike anything in their databases. It wasn't just consuming matter and energy. It was learning, adapting, evolving in real time. Estimated time until core cities lose power? He asked his tactical coordinator. 4 hours, 17 minutes, came the mechanical reply. The organism is draining our energy matrix faster than our star can replenish it. Taesung felt something he had never experienced before. Desperation. The ethereals had been the first to vote for humanity's abandonment 15 years ago. Their mathematical models had been clear. Humans contributed too little to justify the resources needed to save them. Now those same mathematical models were showing the collective's extinction. Sir? His communications officer interrupted. We're receiving a transmission. It's from Admiral Jinho Park. Taesung's crystalline form flickered with shock. That's impossible. Humans are extinct. Apparently not, sir. The main screen activated, showing a face that Taesung remembered from coalition meetings decades ago. But Jinho Park had changed. His eyes held depths that seemed to reflect the space between stars, and his skin had a faint luminescence that spoke of technologies beyond ethereal understanding. High crystalline limb, Jinho said, his voice carrying harmonics that resonated through the crystal chambers. I believe you have a problem. Admiral Park, Taesung managed. The reports of humanity's extinction were inaccurate, very inaccurate. We've been quite busy since you left us to die. Jinho's expression remained neutral, but his words carried the weight of 15 years of memory. Your homeworld is about to fall. This particular swarm variant can consume energy directly from stellar sources. Your defenses are useless against it. Taesung accessed his tactical displays. The superorganism had already consumed 3 of their orbital platforms and was beginning to drain the planetary defense grid. At this rate, their civilization would be dark within hours. What do you want? Taesung asked, abandoning diplomatic protocol. I want to hear you ask. Jinho replied simply. The words stuck in Taesung's throat. The Ethereals had never asked anyone for help. They were the Coalition's founding members, the species that had brought order to the galaxy. They didn't beg. But as another energy reading flatlined on his display, Taesung found the words, Admiral Park, humanity's assistance would be appreciated. Not good enough, said a new voice. Admiral Yejin Ko appeared beside Jinho, her young face showing none of the mercy her elder might have possessed. We don't help people who appreciate assistance. We help people who admit they were wrong. Taesung's form flickered with anger. We made a logical decision based on available data. You made a choice, Yejin replied coldly. You chose to let billions of humans die rather than risk your own ships. Own it. The silence stretched for long moments while the swarm continued its inexorable consumption of ethereal civilization. Finally, Taesung spoke the words that shattered 10,000 years of pride. The ethereal collective formally requests assistance from humanity. We acknowledge that our abandonment of Earth was wrong. Jinho nodded slowly. Better. Signal your defense forces to withdraw. We'll handle this. The space around the ethereal homeworld erupted with quantum distortions. Human ships poured through dimensional rifts, but these weren't the vessels the Coalition remembered. These ships existed partially outside normal space-time, their hulls incorporating technologies from every species in the galaxy. Admiral Yejin co-commanded the assault from her flagship, the Liberation. She had been born in the void, raised in war, and trained to use weapons that bent reality itself. The swarm superorganism was massive and adaptive, but it had never faced humanity's newest innovations. Instead of attacking the creature directly, the human fleet did something impossible. They began converting it. Biomechanical systems that combined human neural interfaces with swarm biological processes began rewriting the organism's core programming. Taesung watched in amazement as the creature that had been consuming his world began to change. Its destructive hunger shifted into protective instincts. Its energy-draining capabilities became a defensive barrier around the planet. How? He whispered. 15 years of practice, Jinho answered. We learned to turn our enemies into allies. It seemed more efficient than just destroying them. The conversion process took 6 hours. When it was complete, the superorganism had become a living shield around the ethereal homeworld, protecting it from any future swarm attacks. But the price of salvation was clear. Diplomatic Admiral Hyunji Lee arrived 3 days later with humanity's terms. She met with the Coalition's surviving leadership in what had once been the Chamber of Unity, but the atmosphere was anything but unified. The Galactic Coalition is hereby dissolved, Hyunji announced without preamble. Its member species are invited to join the Terran Protection Compact under human leadership. The alien representatives erupted in protests and objections, but Hyunji continued calmly. Those species that voted for humanity's abandonment will provide technological reparations and territorial concessions. Those few who opposed our abandonment are offered partnership status. You can't just dissolve the coalition, protested the Nexus representative. We have legal frameworks, established protocols. You dissolved the coalition when you abandoned us, Hyunji replied. You just didn't realize it at the time. Legal frameworks and protocols only work when all parties honor them. Dr. Insu Park, Jinho's son who had been born in the void, stepped forward with a holographic display. We're offering something the coalition never could. True protection. universal coverage. No more calculations about who's worth saving and who isn't. The display showed the new galactic map. Earth existed at the center, simultaneously in normal space and the quantum dimension. Around it, a network of protected worlds extended outward, each one defended by the converted swarm organisms that had once threatened them. "This is our offer," Hyunji said. "Join willingly, and you'll have protection, trade, and technological advancement beyond anything the Coalition ever achieved. Refuse, and you'll face the galaxy alone while we protect those who choose to join us." One by one, the species that had once abandoned humanity accepted the new reality. The mathematics were simple, even for the ethereals. Humanity now controlled the most advanced military force in the galaxy, plus the means to neutralize any swarm threat. Opposition would be not just futile, but suicidal. The ceremony establishing the Terran Protection Compact took place on Earth's restored surface. The planet now existed in both dimensions simultaneously, a world that could never again be threatened or abandoned. Admiral Jin Ho Park stood before the memorial wall that listed every human who had died during the abandonment. Representatives from dozens of species waited behind him, ready to pledge their loyalty to the new order. 15 years ago, Jin Ho said, his words broadcast across the galaxy, "You left humanity to burn. You chose efficiency over honor, calculation over compassion. Today we choose to be better than you were." He turned to face the assembled representatives. "Welcome to the Terran Protection Compact. Under our protection, no species will ever again face extinction alone. No world will be abandoned to save resources. No people will be written off as acceptable losses." Above the memorial, humanity's new motto blazed in letters visible from orbit. Never again, for anyone. The galaxy was safer now. The swarm threat had been neutralized through conversion rather than destruction. Trade routes were protected by forces that could appear anywhere instantly. Scientific advancement was accelerating as human neural compatibility allowed for unprecedented technological integration. Whether the galaxy had wanted this salvation or not, it had received it. Humanity had learned the hardest lesson in the universe. Sometimes, to protect everyone, someone had to be strong enough to make the hard choices. The Coalition had failed because they chose who to save based on profit and convenience. Humanity would succeed because they had learned that everyone was worth saving, even those who had once chosen to abandon them. The age of abandonment was over. The age of protection had begun, and at its heart stood Earth, the world that had burned and been reborn, now the guardian of a galaxy that would never again have to face the darkness alone.